What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Marks from Marks on WRIU 90.3 FM Kingston. I'm your host, as always, Mark Radigan, and for this latest episode, we're joined in the studio by another member of the University of Rhode Island men's soccer program, another member of this class of 2024. We're joined by forward and Irish goal-scoring machine, Brandon Bermingham. After going through and editing this podcast episode in post, I realized that the first couple minutes of the episode where I did the majority of my introduction and introducing everybody to Brandon was corrupted and didn't really sound very good. So after this, we're just going to jump right into Brandon discussing how he fell in love with the game of soccer and ultimately where his career started from a young age. So enjoy.
It was probably when I was probably young, like 3, 4 maybe. It was kind of between football and I had a lot of interest in like the MMA scene as well. My dad would have put that on me. I used to idolize Bruce Lee and stuff. But I'd say 3 or 4, I started to get into my local club. Went from there, really got into it. Was invested, started watching Premier League, support Manchester United. So used to watch the games on the TV all the time, and then sort of just grew up playing on the streets with my friends and then in school and stuff. So football's always been a part of my life from very young.
And so as you started to really fall in love with the game and pick it up as a true passion, what was it like getting involved in teams when you were younger? Were you playing for a school team or were you playing for like a local team in your town? How did that work?
It would have been a local team in my town. Rhode Boys was the name of the team. So that would have been from very young. U7s, U8s was there. U9s, U10s would have grew up there. I went to school there. Would have played in the school. But yeah, Rhode Boys is where I first kind of would have started playing proper football, like I'd say.
Was soccer or proper football, was that the most like mainstream sport growing up amongst like you guys and the rest of your classmates and so on, or was it like competing with like Gaelic football and hurling and so on?
Yeah, you would have had football. I would have played Gaelic football as well. I think most Irish kids play Gaelic football. Hurling was obviously big as well, and then you sort of have a lot of kids would do boxing and stuff like that. So I would have said though football and Gaelic football would have been the two biggest growing up. There would have been clashes where if you played for both, the Gaelic football and the football would kind of have a disagreement over stuff. Like if you play for one team, you can't play for the other, which would have got a lot of kids like having to make a decision of whether I go down the Gaelic football route or whether I go down the football route. So for me, I went down the football route, and yeah.
Was that more based off of like a time and a commitment thing, or is it just like you can't play both and still like physically be at your best at both?
I think it's because the training times would have been a lot similar as well. Like if you would have played Gaelic, you would have went from Gaelic like straight to football training, and then like you wouldn't have been at like your max like energy wise and stuff to play for the football team. So I think for a lot of kids, it's some would be able to maintain it, doing both to a certain age, and then they'd have to pick. But for me, it was sort of just like pick one and go with it. I really enjoyed Gaelic though. Like I would have played Gaelic till I was maybe 13, 14 maybe. But I really like that sport. A lot of my friends would still play it and stuff. So yeah.
Gaelic football is fun to watch. Like I've watched it from time to time. One of my best friends from home is Irish. His mom is from Ireland, so he introduced me to it, and it's very interesting. I couldn't do it. I would never be able to survive playing Gaelic football.
It's an electric sport. I think like it's always good watching the All Ireland finals and stuff that are in Crow Park. You know Crow Park, the big stadium in Dublin. Like it's always end to end. It's a good game to watch, and then obviously you have hurling as well. Hurling's like, I don't know how people play hurling. Like it's
hurling's even nuttier. That's
crazy. Like honestly, the schlitter and like the hurling stuff. Like it's like 90 miles an hour. Like yeah, it's crazy.
And so when you decided to go down the soccer route, at what age did you make that decision? And at what point beyond that did you really start to think, okay, there's potential for me to build something for myself in this game?
Probably when I was like 14, maybe. I think I would have left Drogheda the boys and started playing my football in Dublin. A lot of the players like outside of Dublin would have ventured into Dublin to start playing the football because it was like a big scene for like international scene, teams from England and stuff. So I played for St. Kevin's Boys when I was 15. It's a massive club in Dublin. Produced like a lot of players that play. Some would play in the Premier League now, Championship. Some play in Ireland still, and then all over Europe. But I think when I made that move up to St. Kevin's, it was like okay, let's take this properly serious and go from there.
And so then, as you started to make your way through these different teams, and you get up to St. Kevin's, and you make that jump to, say, a much higher level at that point, what was that jump like for you? Did you feel that you were kind of just growing as the levels were going on, or was it a point where like you made the switch up to a bigger club, felt that all right, this is serious, and I've got to really up my game to stay amongst the pack? You know what I mean?
Yeah, like when I went up to Kevin's first, it's like it's very different, like because it's more of a competitive environment. Like obviously, you have players that aren't necessarily from Dublin, but they'll still play for Kevin's. Like they'll come from all over Ireland and stuff. Like so, I just feel it was a proper like environment to try and push yourself to go professional. I had a good time there. I mean, it was just a lot more taken seriously, and like they would try and push you on to the next level. Like every player that was in the squad had ambitions to go further. So I think that helped me in that part of my life.
And so then, as you go through the seasons with St. Kevin's, at what point did you kind of get the feeling that, all right, a professional career is on the horizon? Was there a string of games where you just played exceptionally well? Did you have one season that you look back on where it's like, all right, this was the turning point for me?
There was one season, I mean, for Kevin's, we won the All-Ireland title, which was like, I think it was under 16s schoolboys. So we won our All-Ireland League, and then you would have had international managers coming to watch and stuff. And then the under 17 League of Ireland was the next step. So that was like, the League of Ireland's like the professional setup in Ireland. So I would have had interest from under 17 teams to go in there, and I felt like that was my next step to keep going and like to get myself in with a professional team from first team that goes down to youth.
And so that would have been the under 17s, like the academies of the main League of Ireland
teams?
So
the in Ireland it goes, I think now it's like under 13s, under 15s, 17s, 19s, first team. So the academy system in Ireland's grown a lot over the last few years, so I think it's in a good place now.
How has the game overall grown? Because I mean, it's Ireland in recent years hasn't been the most, say it, hub for soccer. Obviously, the national team hasn't been as competitive in the past few years. But I mean, you start to see more clubs every year from Ireland breaking into the European competition fold and so on. So you're seeing evidence of growth there. But I mean, just from like you playing there and then going back throughout the past couple of years since you've been to the U.S., how have you seen it grow?
I think the problem with Ireland's always been like people would get to a certain age, let's say 16, and they would go to England or they'd go to Scotland and not develop with the Irish teams. So I think that was always a big problem. But now it's sort of like the players kind of tend to stay at home, play first team in the league, and then go from there and try and get better contracts rather than dropping out of school, going to get your scholarship in England, and maybe potentially coming home with nothing. Mm-hmm. They'd rather stay, play football in the League of Ireland, which is a good level still, and then push for the first team. So I think there's more of a plan in place for players to push on.
Has there been like a push from the Irish FA and like the League of Ireland to try and get players to stay in order to maintain that level of development from within?
It's tough with the FAI, if I'm being honest. Like, but I think it's just more of the League of Ireland, like as you said, like teams making Champions League, Europa League. Like you had Dundalk recently. Shamrock Rovers are always up there. St. Pat's would be in Europa Conference League and stuff. Like there's just more of an opportunity to play at more of a higher level now.
Yeah.
That I think the players are seeing as like potential maybe to go on to that next level at Ireland or Europe or abroad.
And you mentioned just a second ago about how guys were dropping out of school to try and test their luck over in England and Scotland to try and get a scholarship out there while also pursuing a soccer career. What was it like for you trying to balance your academics while trying to pursue a professional career?
For me, it was okay. I mean, I went to high school in Drogheda, which was good for me because I also played for Drogheda first team when this was 20. So I went to Drogheda High School 2013, I think, and then I would have left 2020. But from 2019 to 2020, I was actually with Drogheda United first team, so that was fine. I mean, it came to the more crucial part of academics, but I wasn't traveling to Dublin anymore.
Yeah.
I was like local playing for Drogheda, so it was kind of easy enough in that sense. And the school were very understanding and stuff if like you were away playing games or stuff like that. So I think for me it was the right choice playing for Drogheda during the end period of my school year.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean for me it was fine.
And so then how did you get into the Drogheda first team? Were you making your way up through their academy ranks, or how did that work?
So after Kevin's, I signed for St. Patrick's Athletic under 17s. Loved it there. Played well, and then pushed on to Bohemians under 19s. Great time there as well. I would have played UEFA Youth League, Champions League under 19s, which was a great experience. And then I sort of wanted to get more first team opportunities, so I signed for Drogheda, which was my local club. And I only have good things to say about Drogheda. They're actually in the final, the FAI final, next week, which is basically the FA Cup final.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. In the Aviva, which is in front of maybe 50,000. So it's kind of crazy where they are now. But yeah.
And so at what age did you actually break into the first team? You said you were still in high school, so like 17 around there?
17, 18 maybe. I think maybe 18, yeah. Yeah, 18.
Was that weird for you, being so young, breaking into the first team, or was it sort of like you've been in a relatively professional environment for so long that the adjustment was natural?
I kind of felt ready. Like I felt ready for a while, even when I was at Bohemians. I mean, when I was at St. Patrick's under 17s, I was 15 then, and I would have been training with their first team at that time. But just I wasn't really getting the opportunity to play.
Yeah.
So I think when I was 18, I was ready to play for Drogheda. The manager had trust in me, so I just had to go from there and take my opportunity.
And so then you get to Drogheda, part of the first team. What was your involvement like? Because when you hear from a lot of international players coming over to play in the United States, not many of them had the opportunity to play in the top flight of their respective nation's professional league. And obviously, Ireland isn't at the same level as, say, Spain, England, or France, but it's still the top flight. And so I'm curious, just like, what was that season like, and how did that season and your performances then go on to impact you deciding to come out here?
I think a lot helped with playing with like older men, like as like that's their job. Like if they don't get a result, like it's a problem for them. It's a problem for the manager. Manager's getting sacked. 3 points count. Like everything was just more up for grabs. And then being in an environment where you're with like seasoned professionals, like they've been other places. They've won championships elsewhere and stuff. So I think as a person, you grow in that environment. You get to see how other people take care of their bodies, whether it's nutrition, all that stuff. And then you sort of just like, you're like a sponge. You sort of just like learn, take information off people and try and use it to yourself. So yeah, it was great being around like seasoned professionals.
Did you feel any pressure when you were in the locker room, like, or just as a part of that team being so young, having that maybe say target on your back as one of the young guys coming in to make an impact on this first team?
I wouldn't say pressure. I mean, there was a few young players that would have played in the team, but obviously you're going to be nervous before games. I think that's normal, but I wouldn't say pressure. I just say like excitement going into games, because you're looking to show people like what you can do.
Yeah.
And as I said before, I thought I was ready for that stage, so I was just trying to show people that I was ready to, like, I'm ready now. Like.
And so when you actually got into the first team, what was the impact that you had? Did you see minutes off the bench? Were you starting games? Just what was that overall season like for you once you actually got to be a part of that squad?
I think my first season I done very well in my first season. I think if we played, there was probably 20 games in a season roughly. I think I would have played 16, 17 maybe. Scored like 5 or 6 goals, and then a couple of assists. I was playing out wide actually back in Rhode, so I was just trying to contribute with goals and assists as much as I can. And then the second season, this was before I went to America. I kind of struggled with form. I had injuries and like I pulled my quad and stuff, so that was kind of a nightmare. But both seasons, like, you just sort of learn stuff and like try and take it with you.
And so, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, it seems like that you were in the fold, a part of this team, not like on the fringe, so to speak. So then what prompted you to then decide, okay, I want to move to the U.S., get an education while still continuing to play soccer?
I mean, I've always had an interest in coming to America. I think a lot of players do, like especially in Ireland and stuff. It's like, oh, I wonder what it's like out there, etc. and stuff. So obviously COVID happened. So I think it was off the back of COVID, I was like, maybe let's go out to America, see what happens, and let's say nothing happens, I can always try and come back into the League of Ireland and play. But if something happens out here, great, we'll go from there, get your degree and stuff. So I think that was always in the back of my head, like, worst case scenario, you're back in Ireland, and hopefully you can find the club, and best case, like, who knows out here. So
yeah. And so then when you made the decision, you know what, during COVID, let's do it, let's see how this works, how did that process go for you? I mean, from the conversations that I've had with a few of the Spanish guys on the team, and Adu and Ivan talked about finding an agent to help coordinate reaching out to colleges and really getting your name and your profile out there in front of these coaches. Was that sort of the same process for you, or just what was that like?
Yeah, it would have been similar. I think all the Europeans would have went through that similar process. It's through an agency, so I went through an agency, SM USA, so I was with a guy called Stephen Murray, who does the stuff in Ireland. Went through him, everything was good. Started to get offers and stuff, which is the fun part, and then decided to go with William Carey in Mississippi. And yeah, it's kind of a straightforward process. You obviously go and get your visa and stuff, like that's probably the most nerve-wracking part. Like, you walk into the visa full of Americans, you just go from there, like, so yeah, it's sort of straightforward. And
so William Carey in Mississippi, quite the peculiar place for an Irishman to go as his first stop in the U.S. I mean, during that whole process, you said that getting the offers was the best part. Were you getting looks from colleges at all of the different collegiate athletic levels, or what were the type of offers that you were getting?
A lot of the offers, like, I think I wasn't eligible to go D1 straight away. I think my GPA, because back in Ireland during school we got predicted grades for the leaving certificate, we call it. I'm gonna say I'm not the best in school. I think people know that here. But I mean, my grades were okay, but nothing like, oh, you're gonna go to, let's say, I don't know, Clemson or something, and like study whatever. But so I had to go through the NAIA. So I went to William Carey. The manager there was Irish, Barry. So I just thought that was perfect for me, perfect timing. So I decided to go there. Very different though, very different.
That's kind of what I was going to get to, was what was that initially like for you going down to Mississippi? Because even as for someone that's from New York City, then in Connecticut, New England is a very, very different place from the true deep South like Mississippi.
Yeah.
And as an American going down there, it can be startling and you could be like just having to really adjust. But as a foreign player, I can only imagine what that was like. And I mean, even having a coach who's Irish, I mean, was that a quick adjustment period, or just how long did it really take you to get up to speed outside of soccer?
Yeah, I mean, it's very different, especially in Mississippi. Like, I remember me and one of my mates, Scottish guy, he was new as well. So we're walking down like the main street, just walking on the road, like no footpath, just walk. Two fellas from Ireland and Scotland, just like, you'd know we're foreigners. Like,
yeah.
Like people driving past were like, who are these? Like, cars beeping and stuff at us. Like, just like, what are we doing like here? But yeah, it's just food's different. I remember I got off the plane first, stepped out of the airport, and I was like, this place is a sauna. Like, I couldn't believe it. Like, but yeah, I have fond memories of Mississippi. Like, I loved it down there. The people were great, very friendly people. And yeah, I've only good things to say about Mississippi down there.
And well, looking back on it, I got to imagine you have fond memories of playing soccer down there. Because, I mean, you backed goals at the NAIA level. I mean, just in terms of the level of play, going from the League of Ireland to then going to NAIA, because depending on where you go in NAIA, since it's so expansive and there's so many different teams at different levels, since it's just like a hodgepodge of so many different colleges, what was that like in terms of actually playing? Did you feel that it was a level that you may have been above, or do you feel that playing in the League of Ireland had adequately prepared you for this style of American play? Because I know that it can be a surprise in terms of just the way that the game is played in America to a number of European players.
Very different. Like, I remember I played my first few games for William Carey, and I was just like, what is going on here? Like, I mean, the NAIA is like, it's very like stretched. Like, some teams are really good, like really, really good. Some teams are really, really bad. Like, I think that like with D1 here, it's kind of like teams are very similar. But when you play the good teams at NAIA, it's good matches, tempo's good. Bad teams, obviously the opposite. But the way the game's played is very different. Like, there's no strategic. There wouldn't be strategic pressing. It would just be run at him, get the ball off him, like just run at him. But yeah, trying to adapt to the game. It's more like end to end, like a tennis match. But yeah, it's a different style of football over here. But I mean, if you have both styles of football, it can kind of help you going forward. So,
would you say it's more physical in the sense that, like, it's not as strategic in the way that you're trying to get your guys to pressure defenders, and you're really just trying to bully them off the ball and get the ball by any means necessary? And when you watch professional games, depending on the league that you watch, it's obviously very physical because it's just how it is. It's just how the professional game is. Yeah. But in America, sports are usually just a lot more physical. Like, it's just kind of what the bread and butter of the U.S. is. Is that something that you noticed? Was there a difference in physicality based on what you had played to then getting to Mississippi? I
wouldn't say physicality, because like Ireland and the UK in general is very like physical. Like, obviously, if you watch the Premier League, like you've Stoke, like away nights in Stoke and stuff is very direct, long ball teams, unless obviously you're top like Guardiola, tiki taka. But a lot of the times it's long ball, playoff seconds and stuff. So I'd say physicality, it's probably more back home. But I mean, that's just because you're playing 29, 30-year-olds like men. But it is very physical here at the same time. Just depending on what game and who you're playing.
And so, walk me through a little bit just what it was like fully playing in NAIA after you got through that initial phase of, all right, this is how the game is played. We've played some good teams. We've played some bad teams. Now I understand what's expected of me and how these games should operate. Once you got that, it was fairly evident that you were at a level where you could flourish. You started to score a lot of goals. As you got through the NAIA process, just what was it like for you in terms of growing as a player?
I feel like every year, every season, I try and grow as a player. Whether it's how many goals I scored the previous year, it's always try and get better. With more goals, more assists and stuff. So I think that's just more individually wanting to better yourself. It's not like, and obviously team achievements as well. How the team does, can you better yourself for the next season? I think that's just more down to you as the individual. I've been very good at that since young, trying to better myself and stuff so. I wouldn't say it was hard. It just kind of naturally happens.
And so was there a point that you look back on that you hit where it's you know what, I'm ready to make that switch up to Division I? Because you talked about how you weren't necessarily eligible to go straight into Division I, Division II, Division III. So you go through NAIA to get that eligibility. But was there at any point where you're there, you're I don't know if I can make that jump? And then on the flip side, when was the point where you knew you could make that jump and then ultimately get to the position where you are right now?
I think for me, it's always I always came to America going, I want to play D1. Yeah. I think every player from Europe or elsewhere wants to do that. But I think there was a summer league USL 2. I was playing at Des Moines. Loved it there. Played with a lot of players from top D1 teams. So I think training with them, playing games and stuff with them, I was always okay, I kind of need to get a D1 team now and push on to keep the level high and stuff. So I'd say the summer of 2022 was when I was at Des Moines. So going from there, yeah.
And so then once you kind of got into that mindset and your NAIA career, the goal numbers were speaking for themselves, and then you're starting to flourish playing for USL 2 teams against and alongside Division I players, similar to a story that Pat Agerman told me. That was kind of when he figured out that he was able to play Division I. He got to start playing, training with some Division I players, realized that he was keeping up, and then you kind of had that feeling where it's all right, you know what? I'm ready for this level. At that point, what was then the process like for you looking for Division I teams? Because I imagine that it's probably a little less complicated since you're already situated in the United States and there's a bit easier of access to what you've been able to do and being able to talk to coaches at a more consistent basis rather than having to constantly go through FaceTimes over from Ireland over to the US and so on.
Again, it's simple. I mean, sort of spoke to Stephen Murray, who was the guy that got me over here from Ireland. Had a word with my manager from Mississippi, just letting him know, listen, I think I want to move on to D1 and stuff. He kind of knew that. He knew when I was coming into Mississippi that I've always wanted to play D1, so he kind of knew that was happening and stuff. So, I mean, once I finished that second season at Mississippi, it was kind of okay, I'm leaving. Put the feeders out, and then Rhode Island was very quick and stuff, so I didn't want to waste any time speaking to schools and stuff over and over, doing all that. So I sort of just listened to a few offers and then just went with Rhode Island. So yeah.
What were some of the other offers that you got? Were there other ones in New England or? Sorry.
Hofstra was very close, very very close. Missouri State. Who else was I speaking to? UCF, LMU and LA. And there's a couple more, but the Hofstra one was very close.
So then what ultimately sold you on Rhode Island? Because I feel like that there's always the underlining similarities with the campus and Rhode Island and the beaches and so on, but everyone always has something different that really makes them gravitate toward a university and one like Rhode Island. Was there anything specific that you saw or heard or had in conversation that was like, you know what, this is where I want to go?
I mean, the campus speaks for itself. The campus is class, like, and then obviously close to Boston, close to New York, East Coast, obviously, and then I know like the East Coast is very, very like football based. Like it's a big thing around here. So I sort of just went with that, and then I just felt this was the best place for me. So
yeah, and so then once you made the switch up here and move on from NAIA, get into the Division I locker room, you start surrounding yourself with Division I players, then was that just a quick transition? Like, didn't really skip a beat once you get into those first training sessions over the summer before your first season was just like easy, throw yourself in there?
Yeah, I mean, it was fine. I think the boys will tell you, like, I came in, and it was probably like I've been here for a while, to be honest. Like, the lads were great, came in straight away, settled in great. And yeah, I mean, the dressing room part's was kind of easy enough because, like, I've been in a dressing room with obviously players that are like 30, etc., like older players. So you sort of know going in, like, you have an idea of like what's kind of going to be. So yeah, the transition period was easy.
And so actually that leads me to my next question was, how did playing professionally in Ireland, playing with adult seasoned professionals and so on, help impact you and prepare you for playing at the Division I level? Because obviously Division I soccer is very competitive. It's the second, probably I would say it's the second highest form of competitive soccer. In USL, NCAA, both exceptionally competitive in their own right. I really think the difference is age group. But how did playing professionally help prepare you to be successful at the D1 level?
I think just playing back home, like, it teaches you a lot. It's not even on the pitch. It's a lot of stuff off the pitch, like just how to react when stuff maybe doesn't go your way, being on time and stuff, like all the small details that you kind of start to clock on when you're playing back home. You start to realise how people do stuff. You can bring it into your own game and stuff, like so. Although the football was different here and back home, I think it's just the small stuff you can use from back home to bring here that can just give you that extra boost. And
so then, looking back on your first season, you come in, you play 6 games, you start 4, you grab 3 goals. Not the most minutes that you probably would have wanted, but still new to the team, getting added into the fold. Just when you look back on your first season of Division I soccer, considering that was the goal from when you stepped foot in the United States to play Division I soccer, how do you look back on it? Do you look back on it fondly, or do you feel that it was maybe could have been better, but you still learned a lot?
6 goals, no?
6, yeah.
6, there we go. No, I mean, last year was good. I mean, I had a big ankle injury, which, I mean, I was rooming with Edu in pre-season. He'll tell you, like, I was struggling to shower and stuff. I couldn't even walk to the shower and stuff. So I was struggling mentally as well last year before even playing those games. So I think when I did come on and stuff, it was kind of just, can I nick a goal? Can I do something just to impact the game? And then luckily chances came, was able to take some of them and stuff. So yeah, it was kind of a hit and miss last season just because the injury and stuff, but to come away with a couple of goals was nice.
And so then after last season, using the lessons that you learned and so on, going into this season, what were some of your own like personal goals and sort of growing as a player? Because you talked about just like every season you want to grow in a different capacity and you want to continue to strive to be the best player that you can. And you had your first season in Division I, had success, albeit cut short because of an injury. Knowing what you had learned, what were you trying to apply the most this season?
I think it was just trying to improve again. I always sort of make goals at the start of the season for myself on the pitch and stuff. So obviously it's just trying to do better than I did last season. Areas of my game that I think I can improve, like weak foot, etc. And some other stuff. But for me, it's just always improving. Like once you see improvement, you can't really complain with yourself. It's like, it's going up. Like the last thing you want is to be going down as a football player.
Yeah.
Because then mentally everything else comes into it. So once you're going up or you're steady, being consistent is huge, I think, in football. So trying to stay consistent and go up.
And so then this season, you've played nearly every game. And as we're getting toward the very end of the season, it hasn't necessarily gone the way that the program may have hoped. Obviously, we're still yet to see whether or not you guys will still be in playoff contention come the start of the Davidson match on Saturday. But just all of that aside, this being your senior year, your final season in Division I soccer, how do you feel that you've grown as an athlete, having played NAIA, having lived in some very interesting places, to then testing yourself at the Division I level, showing that you were capable beyond that to really assert yourself and play amongst some of the best players in the country? How do you feel that you've seen yourself grow over time?
On the pitch or off the pitch?
Start with on the pitch.
On the pitch, I think I've seen myself grow, whether that's been, obviously we're in the gym. The gym's a big thing over here, so I think you get bigger, obviously, over time. And then getting older, you become more experienced and stuff. So I think experience-wise, I've grown on the pitch. Just little parts of my game and stuff. And then off the pitch, obviously, you said I lived in some mad places. Like, I've been in Iowa, Atlanta, Thunder Bay in Canada for somewhere. Like, so I think meeting new people, building connections, and then just culture-wise, like getting to know different cultures and stuff is very important. So to become well-rounded and stuff. So I think coming to America, like, I don't regret it.
Yeah.
I think I've grown on and off the pitch, so I wouldn't change it.
And so then, looking ahead, once this season finishes, you'll still have the spring season to continue to stay fit, continue to hone out some of your skills before you graduate in May. And you and I feel like I've asked you this a bunch of times over the past couple of weeks, but wanting to know what you plan on doing after graduation, because it's another sort of split off, I feel like, for a number of people, is that when you come to play sports in the United States for the international students, you get the degree, you get the education, but you're still playing the game. And the game doesn't really leave you, so there's that longing of wanting to continue, but then you also have the fallback of your degree and what you've learned and so on and being able to get a job. And so to start, I mean, as of right now, what is it exactly that you want to do? Or if you don't necessarily have like a full-fledged idea, what are some of the things that you would like to do post-grad?
I'm trying to play 100%. Whether that be here or back home or elsewhere, that's 100% what I'm trying to do. So hopefully something comes up. I'm not sure where, but the end goal is to definitely play professional. And
you talked about how, when in doubt, you will still have the ability to go back to Ireland, possibly try and find a team there. Having left Ireland and having left playing first-team football at 17, 18 years old, to then possibly go back in your mid-20s, having gained so much experience and gained so much more first-team football at a different level, knowing what you know now and the experiences, how do you feel that would impact your chances and your overall impact on a first-team side in Ireland?
I mean, you're coming back more experienced, as I said, and you're coming back more well-rounded, and you're sort of at that age, if you're coming back at 23, 24, like, you're ready. Like, there's no like, I'm too young.
Yeah.
Blah, blah, blah. So you're coming in, you're ready to play and kick on from there. So I think if I do decide to go back, I'll be going back at a good age. So.
And so are there a number of other players that were in a similar position to you when you were younger, like breaking into the first team in the League of Ireland, but like still wanting to pursue possibly going out to the United States? Was that, or were there other people that you were like friends with or colleagues or teammates that you had that had the same sort of ambition? Were like, hey, like I'm curious about going out to the U.S.?
Yeah, there would have been a few. I mean, I kind of speak to a couple of players that are trying to come out. They'd be texting sometimes what's it like, standard, etc. and stuff like so. But then again, there's a few players that would have the interest, but decide, no, this isn't for me.
Yeah.
I think the big jump is actually committing to it. Once you commit to it, it's sort of, that's when it starts to get real. Like, I remember, even for myself, like, you commit, starts to get real, and then you realize you're flying to, for my case, Mississippi tomorrow. So it's, if anyone is thinking about going to America, I'd highly advise it. But it's very important that you get the right place for you, because if you don't, it can be like a struggle, like, I won't lie.
All right. Well, Brandon, thank you so much for joining me today. That was fascinating. I mean, I love learning about the experiences that international students have before they come out here, because as an American, I've traveled a bit, but I still have so much more to learn about overall what life is like in some of these other countries, and just how it is growing up trying to pursue a career in this beautiful game. Yeah. And I mean, just to have known you guys and to see you guys flourish here, it's really cool. And I'm happy I got to hear your story and give you the ability to share it. And hopefully those listening, whether it's American students trying to figure out if they want to go play Division I or if they want to play college soccer in any capacity, or if any European, anybody abroad listening to this are thinking about coming to the United States to test their luck playing soccer, I mean, the world is your oyster. And you've heard it from Brandon, you've heard it from guys like Ivan and Edu and other guys that will be joining this show over the next few weeks, that it's clearly, from what I've learned, a worthwhile experience, one that you gain so much more than what you feel like you're risking when you make the decision to come out here.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, from my case, as I said, the worst case, if you do come out to America, is you go back to where you're from, you have a degree, you might work, you might play. But off the pitch coming out here, meeting players from all over, like Brazil, Spain, countries in Europe, Americans, different cultures and stuff. Like, I'm Irish and I'm walking around campus drinking yerba mate. Like, where does, like, if I walk around Drogheda drinking mate, they're like, what are you doing? Like, yeah, it's class. Like, I love hearing about, like, being in the culture, hearing people's stories and stuff. So, yeah, it's class.
Shout out Lucho for the yerba mate. Yeah. Well, everybody, thank you all for listening at home. We'll be back next week with some more guests. I have 2 really, really good shows that I will be uploading toward the end of this week. So please follow along on Instagram and Twitter at Marks or Marks Pod to get updated on all of those and all the other shows that I've been doing that aren't live in the studio, because I can't do it in this great studio every day. But once a week, we get to have great guests like Brandon come in and share his stories. So thank you all for listening, and we'll be back next week with another episode. Catch ya.